Hello, 45 Alpha Charlie Papa Channel, and today we're going to take a look at the Chinese copy of the Winchester 97. Now, a few weeks ago, if you look in the channel, I'll put a link down below, we had a sit-down conversation with Coyote Cap. Now, Coyote Cap is a cowboy action shooter, but he's also a master gunsmith, particularly in cowboy action guns, most importantly in Winchester 97s. And when IAC originally were starting to import these from China, they had some issues, and they sent Coyote Cap over to go over the issues that they were having with the gun so that they can bring over a quality shotgun. So if you're interested in that, kind of the minutia, I'll hit some of the cliff notes of that here. Go to that video. It's about 45 minutes long, but it's really fascinating, and Coyote Cap's really a fascinating guy. Anyway, this one is my mom's Winchester 97, my late mother's. I got this right before she passed, and she had the little bunny cuff on here. It's really not a pad. There's really no padding here. Had the little leather fore-end piece here, very reminiscent of some trappers and stuff in the prairie. Kind of early camouflage, you might say. But this was her cowboy action shotgun. This one was imported in 2001. Coyote Cap helped me with that. It does say Norinco on it. Now he says that if it says Norinco on it, they were just using up some of the old Norinco barrels, because at this time when this came over, Norinco was banned from importing anything into the country. Now, Norinco was importing a lot of SKSs, 1911s, Tokharovs, and AK variants of shotguns or rifles and pistols, but they hadn't really done anything with the shotguns. They were importing a lot of Russian designs, a lot of their own designs that they had been making for years for the sporting market here in the United States. However, Norinco, being the largest firearm manufacturer in China, owned by the country of China, got caught selling arms and military equipment to Iraq and Iran, and got themselves banned from the United States in '92. So after '92, nothing with a rifled barrel could come from China, and Norinco themselves were banned. So the ownership of this was a Chinese-American importer, bought the factory, the Norinco factory that these were being made out of, and ran it from there. So that's how these kind of were able to continue to come over until about 2015. Now, you hear stories and stuff, and that's why I interviewed Coyote Cap to kind of set the story straight. The first ones that came in on these were not very good, simply because the shotgun that they eventually got to ship to China to have these made, not a very easy task, by the way, to ship a whole gun to China. Happened to be a worn out Winchester 97. So Coyote Cap went over there and kind of helped them improve this. The people in the know that these IAC Norinco 97s are generally pretty good shotguns. They're more durable, they're safer than the Winchester 97 counterparts, and that's part of some of the stuff Coyote Cap was doing. A few things, just kind of cliff notes of that. The receivers on these are harder and stronger than anything Winchester ever put out. You'll often find a lot of Winchesters, if they have a lot of rounds through them, they crack right along here. That has to do with the little chamber flag you've got here that comes up, that guides the shell into the chamber. If that doesn't come up, it can pop out. You have an extractor here that lines up just perfectly. If that 12 gauge pops out and you go to push it back in, hits that primer, the shell explodes out this way, and on a Winchester model, they will crack right here almost every time. You won't have that problem with a Norinco. They are hard. Talking to some of the guys who have done gunsmithing and stuff on several Norinco products, they go through drill bits if they need to try. Talking to a guy, he was having somebody drill some scope mounts in his AK that he had, and his gunsmith went through over 5 drill bits to drill out that scope for that gun. The metal on that was so hard. His comment was, I don't know what kind of meteorite they make these out of, but that stuff is harder than anything else he's had to ever deal with. So very, very strong actions. The other thing with these, if you notice, this is not really blued. I mean, these are blued to the point that they are black. And he discusses some of that in that interview too. You very rarely see any of these rusts simply because they just blew them until they're almost black, get a uniform color. But having blued them that many times, very strong, very durable finish. Like I said, you very rarely see any rust on these guns. Now the Winchester 97 being a Browning design, you got to spill your guts every time you rack it, right? Just have to. Now, one of the improvements, the Winchester 97 got a reputation as being a widowmaker. Kind of like the Winchester 1911 shotgun was also nicknamed the widowmaker. Now, if you've been to a hunter safety class, one of the things they always tell you on hunter safety is you unload your firearm, put it across the fence, and then go over the fence. And this shotgun is one of the reasons why they stress that so much in hunter safety classes. Not the Norinco, but the original Winchester 97. That is because safety on this shotgun is half cock. It's right there. Let's get this out of here. That is your safety. The original Winchester 97s had a long, steel, heavy, floating firing pin. That's all fine and dandy when these were developed in 1897. Because in 1897 you didn't have brass primers. You had steel primers, so you had to smack them pretty hard. So having that heavy, long firing pin in there made sure that you could set off a steel primer. Well, in the early 1900s, when things switched over to brass primers, Winchester never changed the design. So you could, with this being in half cock and that being a free-floating firing pin, any kind of jolt or something like that could move that firing pin around and set off a brass primered cartridge. So that is one of the reasons why they were kind of considered the widowmakers. A lot of people have been injured by Winchester 97s simply because of that firing pin, and Winchester never changed the design during the whole product run. That's something that you will not have happen with the Norinco. It's a shorter firing pin. It's a lighter firing pin. It's got a spring in it. It's not floated. And that's one of the things that the Coyote Cap wanted to make sure, because he knew better, that happened. Now, one of the famous things with the Winchester 97 is that they are able to slam fire. Slam firing on this is that you hold the trigger down. Sorry to get this open, but when you're open like this, you just hold the trigger down and just pump. If you notice, hammer's down. That hammer follows forward. Now, this is designed to lock up in battery before that hammer is dropped. But that was a feature of the Winchester 97. Now, you might think, well, why would you want to do that? That's just nonsense. That's dangerous. One of the reasons it's the Widowmaker. But they were designed that way. You have to remember this is 1897. There were no factory viable semi-automatic shotguns at that time. So slam fire was the closest you could get to a semi-auto shotgun, and used very well in the trenches of World War I. But because it's got a different firing pin in it, do they still slam fire? Let's see.
Do some slam fire here.
Little slam fire action. Yes, they do still slam fire. Very fun. Took that on a range, a safe range. You can see where you're hitting the target most of the time. Every once in a while, we're just above the target, but you can go through 6 shells pretty darn quick in slam fire. Just a little quicker than you do if you're just pumping and pulling the trigger, but fun, and that's what it is. It's fun. And probably not something you're going to use in a defensive situation as home defense or anything like that, but it is available for you on these particular shotguns if you want to. Now, what I have here is a very basic model. We kind of gone over the important stuff of this. This one was made 2001. Just their standard, not trench gun. They did make a trench gun. They did make one with the vented, the vented shroud on here. This is more of a riot gun configuration. This was their more inexpensive line. It's got the wood here. If you talk to Coyote Cap, he told us in that video, the finish on these are really heavily laden with lead. They've got this really light wood. You can kind of see some of the nicks and stuff here. But the finish is really heavily laden with lead. It's not a very good finish. You will also find these in American walnut. That's something Coyote Cap did. Once he found out that these were so laden with lead, he ordered a bunch of American walnut blanks to be sent to China for them to install on these shotguns. I will eventually maybe change the furniture out at one point. The other thing on this, the finish on this is so weird. It so looks like plastic. It almost so looks like a BB gun finish on that, but it's actually a wood stock. It's not a plastic stock. It just looks plastic, but it is wood. The feels really nice. It points really well. The action is not bad. After handling Coyote Caps, that was a little higher end. It's a cowboy model, and he's also gone through and smoothed things out on it. He's also shot thousands of rounds through his. His was butter smooth. You can make these butter smooth. This one has got a little bit of a drag on it. He was saying this is very, very reminiscent of the basic ones coming out of the factory. He's basically said this is almost like a as new 2001 gun, just reminiscent of how they felt coming out of the factory. So they can be slipped up a little bit.
That was 5?
That was 5.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of joy shooting this. I have taken it to a couple of competitions. I've never once had any malfunctions, any hiccups with this. It is fired flawlessly. I've got probably like 100, 150 rounds through it, and have never had an issue. Now, a lot of people say, all the Chinese ones are garbage. The IAC ones are reputable. They're pretty decent. Most people that have these IAC ones don't sell them, so you don't see them on the market very often. So you might think, well, I hardly ever see them, so they can't be any good. It's also the other way around, that you hardly ever see them because the people that have them don't get rid of them. They're a very good shotgun, very durable. You'll put thousands upon thousands of rounds with them with no issues at all. Did they have some bad ones come through? Yes. And Coyote Cap talks a little bit about that. If you find a CAI one, I would veer away from those. Make sure they're functioning, because they had a more higher incidence of not being as quality as the IAC ones. You have to remember, the Chinese don't throw anything out. So if they had a bad batch of parts that they've ran, they'd set it aside. Wouldn't necessarily put them in these, although they did a couple times with the IAC ones, and that's one of the reasons Coyote Cap had to go over there, tell them don't do that again. But they never, instead of throwing them back in the kiln and remelting them, they sold those parts off. And guess who they went to? I'm not going to say it, but they went to another importer in the country that was putting them together, and you may have some issues with those. Just check them out. I'm sure after all the years these have been out in the market, the bad ones have been kind of filtered out, and the good ones are sitting in collections like mine and never for sale. But I have really enjoyed this shotgun. It is a classic design. I'm happy I have the Norinco one. It's actually a little bit better and more shootable than the Winchester 97s. The Winchester 97s, there are a lot of guys out there shooting them. I like to have shooters. This one I can run stuff through and not have any worries about it. If I had a 100-year-old Winchester 97 that I was using in competition, I might worry a little bit about that, because I really didn't want to destroy a shooting, go out and shoot it every once in a while, but I wouldn't want to run it as fast as some of those cowboy action guys do and destroy a piece of history. But anyway, this is 45 Alpha Charlie Papa channel. I thought I'd bring out the old Norinco, not Norinco, Chinese Winchester 97, show it off a little bit, give you a little bit of history and stuff on it. Again, I've had a whole lot of fun shooting this. Please, if you like the content, like, subscribe, talk about it, and continue the discussion down below. If you didn't like it, hey, give it a thumbs down. I don't care, just react. This is 45 Alpha Charlie Papa channel, and I am out.